Tonight we're meeting as the Historic Resources Board.
I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so for the record, we'll reflect that all members are present. Selection of chairman and vice chairman. We do that separately for this committee?
Yeah. You can make it the same as the planning commission, or you can have different ones. The old HRB board had different commissioners, the vice chairman. It's up to you guys how you like it. Okay.
Can I make a recommendation? We keep everything status quo, or is that a? I mean, you know.
How do you feel?
Well, I don't know, Andy. I was hoping you would do that.
No. I'm gonna
Well, I think for all intents and purposes,
Yeah.
that does make sense.
Yeah.
Because well, what is the
No, I
pleasure?
agree with
Second
it.
your motion.
Yep, there we go.
Second? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No abstentions, so the record reflects all members in favor.
And the chair and vice chair will be the same as the planning commission.
Thank you all for coming here this evening. So this is an opportunity for the public to come up and comment on any items that aren't specifically on the agenda.
Yes, I have Greg Berta speaking.
Welcome.
What am I saying?
Kristen.
And I'm off. Yes.
Thank you, Greg and Kristen Berta, 107 3rd Street, formerly La Casa Rosa, soon to be Richter's. We were trying to get on the kind of informal session, but we didn't make the cutoff. So I just wanted to come in and give a little update on the project. So kind of where we're at with it is that we had an architect, we were going down a path. We were actually coming in for an informal session, and Vonda Guibert had mentioned to us that when we first purchased the property, we asked about the whole thing being on the historic, the National Historic, yeah. So we were told it wasn't, so we proceeded down that path, and then Vonda corrected us and said, yeah, it's part of the whole district, while the building itself isn't, it's on the district. So we since got a new historic preservationist architect on board to help us with the design and make sure we're complying with the Secretary of Interior standards. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're finally starting to gain some momentum after the holidays. Long story short, the plan for the property is pretty much to stay as it is today when it comes to the two-story building out front. So we're going to actually try to make it more original than it is today by replacing some of the vinyl windows and the slider doors and things that Charlie had installed in the past, or previous owners had installed in the past. We're going to go back to more wood sash windows. We're going to try to refurbish what we have there if we can. If not, we'll try to make it as like as possible. We have talked to the architect, and thus far what we've done, we don't seem to have destroyed any of the historical integrity of the property. Everything that's within the property is, other than the building itself, is of non-historic relevance. The back portion of the building that was added sometime in the 30s when it was La Casa Rosa is pretty much in tear-down state. I mean, there's no foundation, it's falling apart. So I wanted to make sure that our plan was to tear that down and rebuild that new, to put in a new kitchen and everything to service the new restaurant that we're planning on putting in. And he said, yeah, that should be fine. Footprint is pretty much going to be the same, maybe a little bit bigger to accommodate the new program. We are going to flatten the roof on the extension so that we can have a place for the equipment for the kitchen. And then the other major thing that we want to do is we want to put a second story on top of the back area that's now his garage. It's a single story. So We had a few preliminary discussions with Roger. He didn't seem to think that was going to be an issue, but that's really the only major change that we're going to do. The one other major change is at some point they moved the stairs from kind of the center of the building to kind of around the corner so that you could access the upstairs apartment from within the restaurant. Which, as an owner-occupier, it was fine, but
When did they do that?
we're thinking that we're going to make it a separate unit, so we want to move the stairs from the interior to the exterior. They'll be on the Anza House side, and we'll create a separate walkway, so it's kind of a private entrance, totally separate from the patio, because we want to do outdoor dining. We have the surveyor coming out next week. We've done some preliminary drawings that Matt just handed out. So I know there's probably been some questions and wondering what's going on, and just get everybody up to speed. The one major thing that we do want to do is change the color. Since it's no longer going to be that program. And by the way, for those of us who haven't talked to us, the new name of the restaurant is going to be Richter's. So in Richter's, we're going to play on the proximity to the San Andreas Fault, so it'll be after the Richter scale. Our plan is to have a little Richter scale in there, so if there's a burner and people are in the restaurant, we'll give them a medal or something that they survived.
You know, that kind of drives away the Japanese tourists.
We brought some color boards. I know at one time there was discussion of...
I'd like to make an interjection here.
Uh-huh.
We cannot discuss anything with him because this is public comment, and there's no dialogue involved. So he's studying a lot of stuff, telling us that's information for the public, but we cannot dialogue with him because it is not on the agenda.
Is anybody dialoguing with him?
Yeah, I mean,
That's the next step if we're going to talk about color.
Well, I mean, if we don't respond, can we let him, if we don't, he...
Yeah, and I think what Ernie is saying is, when there is an informal presentation, other than just comments, then they interface and you can go back and forth and collaborate with them. You can't make a decision.
Sure.
You can collaborate.
Sure.
With the point that he's making just as an oral comment, he's bringing you up to date on what he did. He had made an informal presentation to the Planning Commission, I think, 4 months ago.
A couple months ago,
And
October.
everything. This is just a follow-up and everything, and they'll come back with an informal presentation to highlight everything.
So anyway, so next month when we come in, we're going to come in with neutral colors. Hopefully that'll be sufficient.
Did the board pick a color palette that was supposed to be used for the, we heard of that, talked about a few months back.
The previous board?
Yeah, I believe so.
They adopted a general color palette, they wanted more neutral earth tones and stuff like that.
Specific to that project?
No, specific to the
Downtown.
historical district.
Yeah.
We had representatives from the one of the paint companies. Their 2 representatives came here and made a discussion. Then they were going to work and put together some palettes based on, their company puts out Far Western colors. So we're going to do a palette that would reflect what's happening in San Juan Bautista. And they were going to do it, and then with the election and everything like that, they were going to come back in March to make a full presentation to this body, and maybe the Planning Commission, I don't know. But at least to say, here's, we've got some palettes put together based on what we see in San Juan Bautista.
So we can't answer any questions or whatever, but if you would like to show us those colors, it might help us at the next meeting getting a little step closer for you.
Yeah, so I mean, again, we were trying to stay in the earth tones and neutrals. The big paint, the big sample would be the body. This would be trim and then accent. So we'll keep an eye out for that presentation. And we're not married to any of these colors. It was just kind of a direction. So when we get the informal, we can have a banter. If you happen to see us working on it on the weekend.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got all the support you need from staff. You're on the road.
Been great.
Great.
Hopefully you'll start to see some activity now. We got a lot of momentum, so I just wanted to bring the board up to date.
Yeah. Thank you very much for taking the time to come in this evening.
I don't have any other
Any other public comment? Okay, so we're going to move on to, oops, sorry about that, folks. Informal project review. The first one, item A, is plant nursery and mixed use zone.
Unfortunately, I just heard from her today, and she wasn't able to nail down a property where that was going, an available property where she could make that work, so she decided to pull out on that.
All right. Tattoo shop in San Juan Bautista, Chase Wigland? Wigland. Thank you, sir.
So, hi, yeah, I was hoping to open a art studio / tattoo shop right in the middle of downtown San Juan at 302 3rd Street.
302 3rd Street.
I talked with Matt a little bit about the zoning conditions, and since it's residing within the historical district of town, it's pending your guys' approval. So, I did some mock-ups of like what the shop could potentially look like, and I have some brief background information of my artistic history if you have any interest in seeing that. I can hand that out.
Sure.
For point of information, what was in there before you got in there?
Dante, what was in that shop?
Yeah, the Guatemalan shop.
Okay.
Oh, the Guatemala.
Yeah, just one. Thank you.
So it's on the right-hand side? 302?
Yeah, that's fine.
If you're going that way, it's on.
Guatemalan shop. The one at the corner of Washington? Is it at the corner of Washington Street?
It's right next to the Mission Cafe, is that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. We need, do you have another one?
Yeah, you can take ours, it's fine.
Okay.
Let me just hand that around.
Thank you. Or I can share.
Be directly across from the old Union Bank.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think we would probably be most interested, we see your resume here, thank you, and your experience. I think we'd be just most interested in hearing about your project, the design, and what your intent is in changing the any current layout.
Okay, well, my brother can give you more details.
All right.
I'm partnering up with him. I'm a contractor by trade, so I'm kind of facilitating any aesthetic changes on the interior or exterior that would need to be done. The general contractor that we have had take a look at the property, the aesthetic change is going to be minimal overall. On the exterior from the street, pretty much no changes are going to be made. On the interior, the door leading out to behind the studio isn't fully sealed and weatherproof, so it's small modifications like that just to get the building, draft-free and bug-free, things like that, so critters crawling in through the door jams and everything. The only significant interior change that would need to be made would be to add a freestanding sink within the building. There's an existing water line running underneath the floor through the basement that can be tapped into with a simple stainless or copper water pipe coming up into like a pedestal sink. So aside from that, there might be some temporary removable pony walls on the inside to create different workspaces, and maybe a couple display cases towards the front to create a barrier between the front of the building and the rear with like a little flat kind of door to separate the work areas from the waiting area. But nothing would be invasive or really be noticeable from the street. The window facades would not change much, if at all. The colors would stay the same. It would just be basically some minor cleanup and TLC getting the building looking a little bit cleaner on the inside, more to the taste of the setup that he's trying to go for. No significant overhauls as far as the aesthetic of the exterior of the building. And the general contractor that we're working with, I worked with for about 10 years doing homes in Pebble Beach, specializing in Spanish restoration, mission-era homes. So familiar with all the paints, wood finishes, reclaimed lumber, anything that would be aesthetically appropriate for that time period. We know all the sourcing for door hardware, window hardware, anything along those lines to keep everything in line with whatever your guidances are for that district.
Okay, I'll open it up to members of the board to ask questions.
How many artists are going to be involved? Will all these be tattoo artists, or
Well,
you have 4 stations here, I noticed.
other than myself, I have one other artist who would be working with me. I as a tattoo artist.
And the other two stations?
One would be a kind of like a receptionist desk, and the other would be a drafting table for just like a workstation, like a general workstation.
In addition to the tattooing, is just a portion of the business. He does a lot of work with graphics design. He's worked with wineries, beer companies doing labels and such like that. He's done murals. He's done oil on canvas paintings for some of my clients in Pebble Beach. So the tattoo portion is going to be a small portion of it. Revenue-wise, that's kind of helps keep money coming in, because commissioned art can be, it's chunks of money, but it comes in very intermittently. It's kind of feast or famine with that. So, but he's done murals. He was part of the mural club at the San Francisco Academy of Art. And one of those workstations is going to be his drafting table, easel, digital art pad, things like that. It's for him to conduct that business as well.
Do you happen to have a website where you have some of your artwork displayed?
I do. I have an Instagram, and I have I don't, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't list my website on there, but I could provide you with that information if you'd like to look
That would be
into it.
good.
Scott, any questions?
I think once folks hear about a tattoo place in town, they're going to really want to know what the facade's going to look like. And we do have specific guidelines, like no neon, stuff like that,
Correct.
I don't know if that's changed. I don't think that's changed, but that's expensive anyway. But the facade is going to be kind of a big deal for a lot of people, I think, me personally, no, but there may be.
We're well aware of the fact that there's some negative connotations that come along with, tattoo parlors. That's why we want to brand it as an art studio that just happens to have a portion of it dedicated to tattoo work. There's not we don't want to have people think of the smoke-filled tattoo parlor with death metal and neon Coors light signs and stuff like that in the background. So you can see in the mock-up that he did. There's going to be kind of an art gallery in the front with some display cases where the receptionist is, local artist. He'll have some artwork in there. We want to get some metal artwork in there, some woodworking artwork in there, kind of make it so that anything you see, there's a limited view into the building from the street to begin with, because there's big display cases flanking the door. And the little bit you can see through the doorway and through past the display cases, we want to make sure is in line with the theme of the downtown area, where it's kind of Mission, Old Western kind of a vibe going to it. So we don't want to walk in and have skulls and flames and everything else that people might be concerned that a tattoo shop would have. It's going to have a very harmonious aesthetic with the rest of the community, because we don't want to stick out like a sore thumb where there's just this random biker dive bar vibe tattoo shop in the middle of your down historic district. We want it to be tasteful, and it's becoming more of a common thing where it's not just a deviant kind of art form anymore. There's it's big with chefs, it's big with artists, it's big with a broad variety of people. He's done artwork for police officers, firefighters, a broad spectrum of people, and we want to make sure that that's the kind of people we're attracting with both the branding and the overall aesthetic of the building. We don't want to make it seem like a dive bar version of a tattoo parlor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a conscious effort to make sure it tied in with the rest of what you folks have going on in town.
Anything else? I have a couple questions. So, Mr. Friels mentioned signs, so you're well aware of that.
Yeah.
Is there any intent or thought that you're going to be painting the exterior of the building at this juncture?
No.
Okay.
In the future, we obviously consult with you before making any dramatic changes.
Is this the building, Dante, that has the old oven in it from a previous bakery, or is that down a little bit? Okay.
You didn't see
Do you own, just out of curiosity, Dante, do you own that building that has the old oven in it? Okay. And what state regulatory body has jurisdiction over tattoo licenses and parlors? I guess it would just be the former of the license, right?
Yeah.
Do you know who that is?
As far as all of those permissions go, it's through the Department of Health for San Diego County is what I would do most of that.
So your operators aren't required to have something like a beautician or?
Well, if I were to have tattoo artists, they would have to go through a bloodborne pathogen training. They'd have to go take a test that's catered towards whatever county the shop is in, they have different trainers for different tests.
Okay, I think there is a state regulatory commission, so one of the things, or body, so what I was gonna tell you, when you come back for formal application,
Okay.
just make sure you've covered all your groundwork there, because I'm sure that would be a condition of approval.
Sure.
That those persons performing those actions be regulated by that body. I think it's the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Okay.
So it's the same people who do like,
Cosmetology.
nails,
Yeah, I've gone through the process in Gilroy. I've been tattooing there or I was tattooing
Okay.
there for about 5 years, so I have a pretty good.
And then, Roger, we don't have any current city ordinance or anything against tattoo parlors or anything like that? I'm sorry,
It will
Matthew.
require a conditional use permit. Yeah, right.
But there's nothing,
There's
like,
nothing banning it.
no
like
card
the,
rooms or,
Yeah.
No.
okay. All right.
I make a suggestion, when you make your presentation, instead of having the commission ask you any questions, offer all that information up that you've been to all these different health department, et cetera.
Yeah.
And it's just a stronger presentation, I think is better for the public. They say, hey, they're not hiding anything, everything's being given out.
Okay.
And your questions would be minimal. And it's just a strategy when you're...
I have done some research within the county for the business license that I would have to get, the different types of registration forms I would have to go through for tattooing.
Yeah, what I think his point is, it was the same thing I was trying to show, just make sure you have all that groundwork covered. Because, I mean, we're about getting businesses going in this town, not about stopping businesses. So we'd hate for you to get here and not have all your ducks in a row. And I think that was...
We would be nice and say, come back next month with that information. It's all coming. If you don't need it, it's called insurance. If you needed it, the application keep moving. So I'm just saying, we're just saying, we want you to come in. We want businesses in San Juan Bautista, and we don't want to have to say, come back next month with the rest of your package.
Yeah, a big part of this was making sure that the council wasn't just going to be violently opposed to the idea of having a tattoo parlor in your town. There's a very broad spectrum of public opinion on it, and we didn't know which end of that spectrum we were going to fall on.
It was just to test the waters up there.
Well, I'm sure we'll get a couple phone calls after today, so we'll see what happens.
Come back to you. Mr.
Well,
Moore?
I don't have any questions, but feel free to come back. Like the rest of the commissioners said, we can expedite it. I personally don't have a problem with it. I want to see businesses come, not leave.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you for looking at San Juan.
Thank you.
Exploit.
And I'm excited that you've got an art gallery in here too. I might be down to see you. I'm an artist also.
It's hard being an artist. It's
Oh, I know, but you have to have your bread and butter work.
I spent a hammer for a living. It's a little easier to make a dollar that way.
Yes, I understand what art is about.
Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I can interject just really quickly. This project and a different one are going to possibly require conditional use permits. And I thought I might give you the opportunity. I printed out the conditional use permit application as well as the chapter of the municipal code dealing with use permits.
Sure.
And I kind of wanted to hand these out and let you talk to some of the new members about the requirements because not everybody might know what's required of a conditional use permit. I know my first time going through this with Ernie 2 years ago to get a conditional use permit was a learning process for me in terms of making findings, the fact that it's a public hearing, all that kind of stuff. So I just want to hand these out in case you want
And the stuff that we require of the application, so we can assist you guys to make that decision.
See, one thing staff has to do is get us a complete application, because if it's incomplete, see you next month, and that just slows us up. Thank you.
Sorry, Scott.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, you're suggesting this...
Well, I didn't know if you wanted to give a little overview or whether you wanted me to just sort of give a little overview of that.
Let's hear this next review, and then that'd be very helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, item C, cutting horse signage.
Doesn't look like they are here.
Did they make it?
They had indicated that they were going to try to make it, they're working on the exterior sign.
Okay.
Whatever there, and kind of given a prelude of what they're going to do with the cutting horse.
All right. Okay, Matt, you want to...
Sure.
This would be a good time.
Yeah, there's another one that might be coming, and it's really important for the planning commissioners to consider. With the use permit, there's a designated use in the general plan and the zoning with mixed-use commercial things where the city and the members of the public who participated in the general plan workshops and things identified where they wanted particular things to happen in town. And a conditional use permit is what comes in when someone proposes a use that doesn't necessarily jive with that. It may not have been specifically approved in a particular area. So what you do with these is make findings that your body believes for a set number of reasons that this use can coexist with the other uses in that particular area. And in order to do that, 1120.03.0 of Chapter 1120 lists the three main things that you have to do to determine that. And I'm just going to read those findings out just so everybody can hear them. So A is that the use is necessary or desirable in relation to the purposes and intent of the San Juan Bautista General Plan, zoning ordinance, and the economic, social, and environmental status of the city. B, that the use will be properly related to other uses, transportation facilities, and other public facilities in the area, and will not cause undue environmental impacts relating to noise, odor, pollution, etc. And C, that the use will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons living or working in the vicinity, or be materially detrimental to the public welfare of the city and its residents. And there's there's a large spectrum here, and that's why if you look at the application on the front, one of the things you have to do is pay for an initial study of environmental impacts, because when you're proposing a new use, sometimes that use really isn't going to work with the surrounding areas, and sometimes you really have to study that and figure out possible mitigation measures. So I just wanted to give a little brief overview.
And just to let you know, the initial study is probably about a 40 or 50 page document that we have to prepare and analyze, and then you'll get a copy of it. So it's an exhausting application where we're looking at potential impacts.
Over your microphone.
Okay. Thank you for that great overview. Did any of you have questions of staff relative to this procedure, the issues? Okay.
Now, one of the things that Matt and I had been discussing is Ernie is seasoned because he's been here for quite a while. Andy was on the city council, but he hadn't been a lot to the things. And what Matt and I were going to suggest is that I know there's a lot on the table here, but maybe pick a date where we'll have a workshop where just you, and then Matt and I can come and we can go over a lot of the details like the sign ordinance and stuff like that. The Environmental Quality Act, there are ministerial and then there's discretionary approvals and what has to go into that, and kind of get you acquainted of the behind-the-scene logistics of getting everything in front of you.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So let's get it on calendar. Let's get it properly noticed, and
Yes, let's do it.
how many hours are you thinking about?
If we try to regurgitate a lot of information, it just sometimes it's overpowering, and I like to break it up and just says, hey, no more than an hour, hour and a half, and hit it hard and everything, and then you all come back for things, and then if we want to do it a couple months later and have another to get in there, because then it sinks in better. I've been in workshops where you just barrage the things, and then after the half hour to 45 minutes, everything goes over the head because it's just boom, boom, boom.
So maybe conceptually, I think most of us, well, on your days off, maybe we could do that like before a regular meeting?
Certainly.
As long as it's not going to be one of those 10 o'clock meetings. But I think that might be more productive over time, even it might make the evening a little bit longer.
And then we could
pick out, conceptually a good idea?
Yeah, and then we could pick out a subject that would be specific, so then you could look at that one subject, and then at the next time another, yeah.
And maybe if you guys had anything in mind that you particularly want to learn about, let us know. We could create a list.
I think that would be helpful, to the newer commissioners and board members. That if you could bring to them first the tools to have in their toolkit, that next meeting we're going to do a sign approval, or what is that all about?
Yep.
And by the way, for members of the public that are here, I had the opportunity for the first time the other day, because I knew we were going to do some sign stuff, or I thought we were, to look at that guide that has been put together. That is an amazing piece of work. I don't know who gets credit for that, but that's an amazing piece of work.
When we spent 3 years on that?
Well, I wish previously when I sat on this body, we'd had stuff like that, because, I think it helps the applicants primarily when they come in and say, oh, this is what they're looking for. It's not really like a magical, mystical tour. It's,
I can say that the previous commission worked hard and long, and we held a lot of meetings with the merchants in downtown, stuff like that.
Well, I know some of those people are here tonight. So anyway, I was very impressed with that body of work.
Chapter 7 of the design guidelines, in case anyone wants to know.
There was actually 2 different documents on the website. There was the guidelines and then
Sign ordinance as well.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it was.
Okay. We have 2 action items. Does anybody? There's no consent. Oh yeah, there are. No. So there's no need to pull any of these items off the agenda and ask for public comment at this board, right?
No, probably not.
Okay. All right, so action item, approve affidavit of posting of the agenda. Looking for a motion to approve?
I give a motion to approve.
A second?
A second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions? Record reflect all members approving. Help me out with this. I can't remember how we did this last time, because we weren't here for the October 4th, 26th meeting. How do we approve those
It
minutes?
still needs, as our city attorney informed me, they still need to be approved, so
Okay.
if they look all right to you.
Or we just accept them.
You were here, right?
Nope.
No, you weren't.
Absent.
Oh yeah, you were absent. Oh, great.
So my thought would be accept minutes as presented, would be to amend your motion.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
That's on the amendment?
I'm sorry?
That's on the amendment? Who made the motion to?
Nobody.
You made the motion?
No, I thought you were making the motion, sorry.
Oh, no, I thought,
No, I didn't.
okay, I move that the board accept the minutes of accept the minutes as presented, since nobody was here at that time.
Of the October 4th, 2016 meeting.
Correct.
A second?
I'll reiterate second.
Thank you. All those in favor, aye.
Okay,
Opposed, abstentions?
that's an unusual one, you know?
Yeah, I know. I was troubled with that last time. Okay.
We got A also. I move that we approve the affidavit of posting as presented by the deputy city clerk.
We already did that.
We did that, okay.
Oh, I missed
That was
that.
when Darlene.
You know, it looks like you might have a little different agenda. But yeah, we did that. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so item 6, comments from the Historic Resources Board. That'd be us.
No comment.
I don't.
I'm good.
Nope.
I just wanted to, Cara Bonk is in the audience, and she had emailed, said that there are some training sessions on the historical preservation there, and maybe she'd like to come up and just
thank you.
briefing. I think it's
Thank
important.
you.
Yeah.
I missed the public comment session, sorry.
You can have my
I'm
section.
so late.
You can have my section under reports of...
I don't think anybody's going to have objection. If you have a public comment, I don't think
Okay. I'm a member of the California Preservation Foundation, and they put on a lot of great workshops. And there's one tomorrow, it's in Oakland, and one that might be of interest to you and to the city of San Juan Bautista in particular, because it has excuse me, has to do with the American of Disabilities Act and how it meshes with historic districts and historic properties. And a number of years ago, we did have someone in town, a merchant, who was sued under the ADA. I'm not quite sure how that all turned out, but anyway, it's my understanding that there are some exceptions and alternatives and things that people who own historic properties, and especially commercial buildings, that's available to them. So I think it might be very valuable. And you don't have to go in person. They also are doing it, I believe, by phone. But there is a fee involved. And I believe, did the city council approve some monies for training?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, maybe one or two or whoever is interested might want to join that conversation tomorrow. It's on the 8th, so tomorrow, I don't remember, but you can go to the California Preservation Foundation. And then I believe they have another workshop on materials, brick. I didn't really review it, brick and some other materials.
Brick's one of them, right?
Bricks is one of them. Conservation, and that might be interesting too. I don't know, I believe there might be a package deal for that. If you do attend personally, they're also doing a trip to some historic property. And again, I think it's in San Francisco. But the workshop's being held in Oakland, and again, you can join it by telephone.
Are you going to attend, Cara?
Unfortunately, I have to take my mom to the doctor, but I would definitely if I had the opportunity to do it. Thank you.
Great, and thank you for sending us those updated emails,
Okay.
With all the information. That's great.
I'll send you another one. The State Office of Historic Preservation of California State, they put out a newsletter periodically, and there's information about there about grants, opportunities, and what other people are doing around the state. What's being nominated for the National Register, so it's also quite educational. I'll forward it to Trish and ask her to send it to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, city manager comments?
I have none, Matt.
I don't think so.
Okay, a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
A second.
All those in favor, aye? Opposed? Okay, thank you, and thank all of you for coming in on a